Hi. Hi. This is funny because we've had a million conversations, just usually not recorded.
Completely.
Yeah. So this Laura Rook, thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. So I kind of want to jump in right away and ask what I've asked everybody that we've done interviews with.
Okay.
Talked with Takata sitting right here last year. And I just wanted to know if you remember your first memory of APT, your very first encounter of APT, or what you would associate.
I didn't know about APT really in theater school or like after I graduated. The first time I had heard of it was I was working in Montana with Montana Shakespeare in the Parks with Bill Brown, and he talked about it. And then I think it was that summer I was working at the Illinois Shakespeare Festival, and a group of us drove up, including Melissa. It was me, Melissa, and a few other people. And
what a tiny world.
I know, so funny. We were working down there together, and like Santiago Sosa, and I don't remember who else was with us, but we drove up and saw Taming of the Shrew.
With Tracy and Jim?
With Tracy and Jim.
Yep. Tim O'Sell's
And
show.
it was like the show that was pouring like torrential rain that
God.
everybody like still talks about. And we were there, but we were like in the audience with like, I remember I had like my jean jacket like over my head.
Nice planning.
And like napkins. But that was like the first time I had ever seen a show here.
And what did you think? I mean, the rain was a little bit.
It didn't
You were
matter.
obsessed?
I was obsessed. That show was just stunning, and it was stunning for so many reasons. And the rain like didn't even matter.
Right.
But it's a hard play, that play.
Yep.
And it was done so well. And those actors, and I remember Dee Dee like coming down the aisle and like just, and I didn't know any of these people yet. And I was just, and I thought the direction of it was so good. And I never questioned it. I didn't question the problems of that play. I was just like, that's how you do that play, and that's how you make that play work. And
that's so interesting. That when you get caught up in someone's story, all those things kind of, if you're truly watching.
Completely.
It's a very interesting thing to contemplate with Shakespeare, I think.
Yeah.
Or any play, problematic play.
But the humanity of it still came across.
Right.
Like in this huge outdoor theater, I believed this love story so much, and I was so invested that like she tamed him. Like the ending didn't bother me at all. And
it's interesting because you're such a feminist.
I am a feminist.
I know you're hardcore.
I love that play.
But that's so that speaks a lot to what it requires to be good at that to be good at Shakespeare.
I
to be
agree.
good. It speaks a lot to what Tracy and Jim were able to do. So when you saw that, and then I remember when I met you. You probably don't remember.
Tell me when you.
Oh my God! You came in for an audition with Bill Brown.
Yeah, that was after Montana. I came in for As You Like It, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget you coming in the room because I've done a lot of auditions, and this is no joke. Like you came in the room, and it wasn't just that you were beautiful. It was that you were beautiful. Like you were undeniably yourself. And unabashedly like, I'm young at this and I want to be great at this. And you gave this energy like, no apologies. I will never forget it.
I remember you directing me in that audition.
Oh, funny, did I do anything smart?
You did. I think I was doing a thing that a lot of young actors do where I was like really trying to make it clear. Like I was like overdoing like every word. To be yes, because I'm like, I care about this text. And you were like, it doesn't have to be every word, like, but you were like, great. You're like, great on the passion.
I do like the passion, but also I do think that there is something that not every actor has, that you have in spades, which is such a divine appreciation for the language.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you are. It doesn't mean you don't want to be authentic, and it doesn't mean you don't want to be a character or whatever. It just means I know that you have such a deep respect for the language. Where did that come from?
That came from, I took class with Susan Hart after I graduated from college in Chicago. She was still teaching at Chicago Shakespeare Theater at the time, and I took a folio class with her. I met her socially, and she was like, oh, you should take my class. And then I took this class with her, and she just like blew my mind lit open on Shakespeare. And I had some of it in college, but never that in depth. And with folio work specifically, where you're really looking at the text and really learning that there's all these hints and all these clues that we think that we can believe that Shakespeare was giving us, that blow open the emotional life and the truth of the play. And she totally, she changed my life.
She inspired you?
She really inspired me. And like, talk about a passionate person. I mean, she was, and she still is, she's like so invested in everybody that she teaches, and would follow up with me. And like, I got cast after a couple classes with her in a production of Henry V in like this small company in Evanston. I mean, we were literally doing it in T-shirts, except I was in a dress because I was playing the Princess of France. And she was like, she like called me and she's like, I heard you're doing this. How come you didn't tell me? And I'm like, I didn't think you, why would you care? I'm just speaking French. I'm not even doing it in Shakespeare. But she was just, she was always invested in me. And I took a lot of classes with her and coached with her. I'm sure I coached all of my auditions for here with her. And then it just grew. And then I started to do it. And then, more influences came in by doing it. And working in Montana and working at ISF and working here. It just,
It's an interesting thing because I think, like, Susan, it does not surprise me. First of all, I know her, and she's a brilliant human.
Yeah.
But when you find someone that, like, loves Shakespeare and you're a Shakespeare lover,
she loves it.
You really do invest because it feels rarer and rarer when you meet, I mean, from my experience, young actors that have the interest. Maybe they haven't been introduced to it enough, and maybe they haven't had a chance to get a confidence about it, so they don't have the interest because it doesn't feel authentic, and it doesn't feel like you can be authentic.
100%.
And you were in that space, but you met her at the right time. Maybe you were in that space or not, but you had a curiosity about it from undergrad, but you met her, and that let you.
Yeah, I totally had a curiosity about it, and I knew that I loved it, but I didn't know if I felt like I knew how to do it or like have a process. I mean, that's the other thing about folio work that I love is it gives you a process. It gives you
where to start.
Where to start. Yes, exactly. And she's the kind of person. I was just telling Bill Brown this like a few months ago. Like, she's the kind of teacher that cares as much about the semicolon as you like spilling your guts on the floor. And like, a lot of my undergrad training was about like spilling your guts all over the floor. Right. And then, so it was really great to have a teacher that was interested and invested in both. Right. And that gave me somewhere to start.
And that would be like if you just described what we are always after.
Always trying to do here, yes.
Always trying to do. Because I always tell the story, the first time I actually sat with David Frank in the audience was when Jimmy and Katie were doing Romeo and Juliet, and it had, everybody was like, this is amazing, and we got done, and I said, you really like this? You really like this? You were doing it again next year? And he said, yeah, we're going to do it better. And I was just like,
do like another play better?
We're going to do that same production. We brought it back the second year because it was really popular. And I was like, do it better. And I was so like, and I don't even know if he knew I was Jimmy. He didn't track maybe that was Jimmy's life at the moment, And but he was like, yeah, because Jim is, you can't stop listening to him. And yes, but he could be speaking a foreign language up there. I do not hear. Did you see The Fly? He said to me. And I said, The Fly goes in the banished scene. Did you see The Fly?
Flies may do this, but I from this must fly.
Yeah, in the Kiss Her Lips, The Fly. Did you see that story of The Fly? And I was like, see it. No, I don't even remember those lines. He's like, exactly.
Oh my God.
And I was like, okay, I'm either a little angry, a little offended, but a lot interested.
Yes.
And then very much wanted to know what the heck that was about. Yeah. And that's the thing that when you invest, he said, I don't want him to be less passionate. I want him to throw himself on the floor crying and screaming. But that speech is that many lines.
Hear it.
Yeah, that speech is that many lines long for a reason.
Yeah.
And I was like, so that was
crazy about that story. I love that.
That cracked open a whole thing for us, and I became incredibly interested in actors who were interested in doing both of those things because, and you are one of those actors.
Thanks, Brenda.
You're welcome. So talk to me about when you decided you wanted to try to work here. or why or when or what?
I mean, that
That
day.
raincoat night.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if at that audition with you I was like, I knew, because I just didn't really know that much. I had never seen a show here. I didn't really know that much about it. But watching that show, I was like, oh, dang. And I remember me and Melissa were, we like parked in the employee parking.
You did?
And yes, because somebody told us we could. And there were like, but we just like kept making jokes about it. We were like, ooh, employee parking. Ooh, maybe one day we'll be employees and we'll get to employ. Like, like it's so stupid now. And now like 10 years later, we're like, that's where we park, you know, but we were just like little babies. We were so excited.
What was it? Was it intimidating? Because I just sat through a whole slew of read-throughs that were amazing, in my opinion. You know, and all the new people are like, what the heck? Was there anything intimidating about it? Or what do you remember about it?
It was a little intimidating. I was glad I had some other work under me, I think, before I came. Like, I think Troilus and Cressida, that was my first, like, big thing, was really intimidating. Because, again, really hard, really complicated
hard language.
And I remember being very nervous for that. Because the first half of my season, I don't think I had any lines. I was, like, just playing handmaids and stuff.
Right.
But, yeah. Trying to remember the first read. Oh, the first read of Richard we didn't do until later. But, yeah, it was, some of it was intimidating, and some of it I was like, I'm so glad I've worked outside before. I'm so glad I've, you know. I remember Dee Dee being like, you're going to walk out there and you're going to see all these faces and it's going to be broad daylight. And I'm like, yeah, I've done that. Like,
I've done that, Dee Dee. Thank you for your advice.
And I did it like with mountains. Like it wasn't.
It was even prettier.
Well, it was prettier, but it was also like there wasn't like a wall to bounce off of. It was like just screaming into a void. You know, trying to. Or when I did that Henry V in Evanston, like on a strip of grass, there's like traffic whizzing by. And you're like trying to like speak French as loud as possible.
That's challenging.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's intimidating in the way that the thing that you're after is not easy.
Right.
And to watch people be really good at it and really throw down and, you know. But I think I was more excited than intimidated.
Yeah, that's how you come off. I never see you look or feel. I mean, I know that there's
I'm
fear.
scared all the time.
Me too. Everybody. Just for the record, I believe everybody is all the time.
Yeah, terrifying.
But I do say that there's a certain amount of like bravery that it takes to do this.
Yeah,
obviously.
That's true.
And we all know that like you do a role, you never get 100%.
No.
I mean, what's the role you feel like you were the most successful? I saw your Juliet, and I thought down at CST. Oh, I thought you were exquisite in that.
Thank you.
So really, and like language love.
I love her so much.
Yeah, and you did love her so much. It was so obvious. So, but like, what do you think? That's something I like imprinted on me. But what do you think you've been most successful in as far as like
a role?
Poetic language. Like, what would you say I'm really proud of?
I mean, I'm really proud of her. I got to do it 3 times, so that was. I mean, and again, it's like in undergrad, I remember taking a class and talking to my teacher and being like, I just don't know what type, freaking undergrad. It's like, I'm like, I don't know, like when I look at Shakespeare, I don't know what roles I'm like right for because I know I read older and I'm not really an ingenue. And she's like, you're in your 20s, and you're Italian, like you're gonna play Juliet. And I'm like, I'm never gonna play Juliet. She's like, oh my God, what have we done to you? And then I worked with Susan and, you know, and then I did it in Montana and ISF and in Chicago and I just have such a special place in my heart for that character because she did teach me so much. Like when you play her, you do go from 0 to 60
and up
like
and
you
down.
get to and use all the language and feel all of your feelings
as a young woman.
Yes.
There's so much to do this with, right?
There's so much.
And honestly, if I were to have to pick, it's my favorite language in the canon.
It's just so beautiful.
It's my favorite. Her language specifically, and those scenes with Romeo are my. I know it's cliche, but I can't.
Not.
It's just.
It's my biggest thing about that play. I'm like, if you're like, oh, Romeo and Juliet, like, I'm like, where is Where's your heart? Where is your soul?
I mean, there's a reason it's popular.
There's a reason it's popular. It's a really good play.
It's a really good play.
And you feel all that's when I was doing it in Montana. It's like my favorite thing. This little girl, we did talkbacks for every show, and this like 4th grader was like raising her hand, and her teacher was like, "Go ahead, you can ask, go ahead." And she goes, "Juliet, is it hard to feel so much?"
Oh.
And I died. And then I died and came back to life, like Julia. And yeah, but we use it, Nate and I use it as shorthand all the time. Like when you're doing these plays, like it's hard to feel so much.
Yeah.
And the language helps you do that and lets you do that.
It's so funny because when I was an actor, it was everything for me to be able to feel all the stuff. It was so cathartic and so natural.
Oh my God, yeah.
You get to excise so much
You
stuff.
work so much out.
Yep.
I know.
Yep. So what's your favorite thing you've done here that you feel the proudest of? It doesn't have to be Shakespeare, but it can be anything.
That's hard to pick.
I know.
I think Nina.
Oh, yeah.
For similar reasons.
Yeah.
Because that also felt like I won the role. Because when I auditioned for it, like whenever you guys contacted me, you were like, "We're gonna have you read for Masha," and I was like, "Okay, can I read for Nina?" And you all were like, we don't know if you're a Nina. I don't think you are." And I was like, "Okay, will you just send me the sides?" And then,
my favorite thing is when somebody wants to say no.
I wanted it so bad. I love Masha. I would have loved to play Masha, but I just knew Nina at that time in my life, and then I learned the shit out of it. Sorry, learned the crap out of it, and then when I walked into the audition, John Langs was like, "Are you reading for Masha? Did you prepare Nina?" And I was like, "Oh boy, did I!" And then I won it.
You did, and you're brilliant in it. It was a beautiful production.
It was just one of those dreamy casts, where all the pieces fit, and it. And I was going through a lot in my life at that time, and it was. It meant so much to me to get to do that play.
What would be a do-over? I always ask everybody if you could do something over.
Oh, God, everything.
I know everybody says that. All the good actors say that.
Yeah,
right?
Well, especially when you're first starting.
Right.
God, all of Troilus and Cressida. I mean,
come on now, yeah.
But
almost every actor would need to do Troilus and Cressida over.
Yeah. What else? I don't know. A lot of things when I was starting out, probably including Nina, but.
Because it'd be so fun to do it again, like you did with Juliet, to get a second,
to do it
chance.
again.
Yeah,
and I'm a little long in the tooth to do it now, but to know what I know and to know how to craft it better and not be super indulgent or miss stuff or
I mean, that's how I feel about being a mom. So I'd like to go back and do what
I
know now
I can't imagine.
And do a lot of things differently, right?
Yeah,
that's amazing. I always think this is a great question. What's your favorite word? Did you think about this?
I did think about it, and it's really hard to pick one because there's a lot of great words. I think this has been my one for a long time, though, is onomatopoeia.
I love that word, too.
I love that word, and I love... It is what it says, and then I love onomatopoetic words.
Mm-hmm. Like?
Like womb, and home, and free. I mean, there's the jab pow, there's the Batman
Choo-choo.
ones, but yeah, exactly. But then there's some that I'm like, God, that really, home sounds like what it feels like.
Yep, it does.
Womb sounds like holding the whole world in that word. And
that's why you love poetry. That's why Shakespeare for you.
Absolutely. The sounds of the words, what they mean.
Right.
And what onomatopoetic words meant to his audience.
Right.
When he was making words up.
Right.
And you didn't know what puking meant.
Right. Fart.
But then
fartle.
It sounds like
a fartle.
Yeah. But you're that kind of sounds like what a fartle.
Yeah.
Sounds like what I do when I upchuck, or upchuck, also a good word. Yeah.
What's your least favorite word?
My Least favorite word. Oh, I thought about this one too. Oh, geriatric.
Oh.
I hate that word.
Geriatric.
Geriatric. I just think I don't think anybody ever wants to hear that word, have that word used.
Associated with you?
Associated with anything. It's just kind of
an ugly
a
word.
mean, ugly word.
It's kind of an ugly word even in its sound, geriatric.
That's what and it...
It reminds me of Jerry Lewis. Every time I hear that word.
That's hilarious.
I don't know why. He always comes in my brain.
I think it just is like disrespectful to it just is it's an ugly word for aging, which I think is a beautiful thing, and I think the older we get the wiser we get, and I think we have a very backwards way of looking at our elders. I think our elders have so much to teach us, and there's so much wisdom and there's so much grace that comes with it, and geriatric could mean that, but it doesn't sound like that.
It doesn't sound,
doesn't sound like that at all
right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a really good word to not like. I think that what you're saying about older people, it's like when you see and find those people, when you see a model of somebody being graceful and wise, I'm like, to that person.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm always watching and looking for women that are doing it really well so that I can have some chance.
Oh yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
It's an interesting thing. It's really important.
Yeah. I mean, and there's ugly words, and words that I don't like saying, or words that are nasty, but sometimes it's like, I love swear words. Freaking love them.
I love them too.
But they mean what they say they mean.
They're emotional.
They're emotional, and they but the sound of that word, I don't like the sound of that word.
So you've been here for how many seasons?
This is my 9th.
Your 9th, almost to your 10th anniversary.
It's almost my 10th anniversary.
Well,
I feel like I've been here for 10 years. My first season was 2012.
So it's been span of 10 years.
I've been here for 10 years.
10 years. So what is your favorite part about being here? What is the thing that brings you back? Why do you say, yes, I'd like to do that role there, and all of those elements with all of that challenge?
Yeah, because of the passion and the investment in the work. And the people. I love the people, but I love the people because they're also invested in the challenge of the work.
Like a kind of a pact of sorts.
Yeah.
Actors and artists.
I mean, one of my favorite things to say is like when people are complaining, I'm like, oh, you got to go work at work. Like, why are you whining? Like, just go do your job.
That's another reason I love you. Like you will do. Like meets like in this sense for us.
Yes.
We've talked about like we like work.
I do like to work.
Yep.
And I love that. I mean, from the beginning, I'm like, oh my, you get to do 3 Shakespeare plays at one time.
Right.
Sign me up.
Right.
I mean, how do I? That was we did 3. My first season, I did 3 Shakespeare plays in one summer.
Wow.
And the nerdy part of me is like, oh, I get to put it. Me and Nate have like lists of every play we've done in the canon. Yeah, like, so I love that. People call it boot camp or whatever, but it kind of is. Like you get to really stretch and grow and learn and continue to do so. Nobody's done learning here.
That is my biggest thing, is that like the people that you think are like great, and then they come in and they do beginner's mind on something. They're like, I don't know much. I don't know anything hard. They do, but they put themselves in a place to learn, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a scary place to be when you're in front of your colleagues and you're supposed to know so much. I mean, I'm sure you experienced that.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, my favorite people are the ones who are messy, and my colleagues who are like, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, and that's most of them.
Yeah.
Are vulnerable and are willing to unzip and
be bad. Dee Dee's almost always the worst in the room, and every time I go into a room, he'll be like, oh, just trying stuff. And then he's brilliant. So but that kind of net to hold each other, that community. I know you said that before about community, but like, it's not I remember David saying to me, your job isn't to make it a nice place to work with all your friends. And I'm like, well, that's not the point, but
it just happens to be that.
And also, but to intentionally create a place to work where people can be friends, because they've become vulnerable with each other, because they've signed this kind of pact of.
We do a very intimate job.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
requires a lot of risk taking.
Yeah.
So if you're in a room with people that you trust,
Oh God, yeah.
and that building trust is really hard to do fast.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys, over the years, come in and out of those relationships enough.
Yeah.
It has a lot of baggage too. There's stuff that.
Oh,
comes and
there's
goes.
definitely. I mean, it's a family in the best ways and all of the complicated ways, and
Right.
the ways that your family makes you insane,
Yep.
and the ways that you are just so comforted by the fact that they make you insane.
You can rely on that.
Yeah, you know, and you know, and you start to learn what people need, you know, and they know what I need, and
And
you
then
know,
they're less crazy making, because they are
Yeah.
less afraid.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can just go, oh, I see you, or you know,
I have a sense about what's happening
Yeah.
instead of like making up all the stuff that you think might be happening. Yeah, that knowledge is invaluable.
I'm sure you've heard that story where it was like a rain delay.
Go ahead.
And
tell
we
it.
all, like, somebody started talking about people's tells in rehearsal and like what we do when we're like about to lose it.
Imitate each other.
Yes.
Like Colleen's like,
yeah, like we were all like, oh yeah. And then Nate's eyebrows go up and Christina just gets like really agreeable and Kelsey tosses her hair. And,
What do you do?
Nate says my mouth gets really small.
Like what?
And like
What's
I'm
it look
like,
oh yes, I have seen that look.
Yeah.
That's it. He's right on about that.
Yeah. Oh, and I do deer paws.
You do deer pause when you.
I do deer pause when I really want to get clear about something.
A point across that you don't think you're being heard. I'm using my pause.
Yeah.
Exactly.
To try and figure it out.
That's amazing. I love that you guys do that.
But then I'm like, oh shit, Nate's eyebrows are up. I know, like,
Yeah.
I gotta get him on a 10 and be like, hey, your eyebrows are up. You know.
Your deer paws are out.
Your eyebrows are up.
What do you wish for IPT?
So many things. I think ultimately, I want expansion for APT. I would love it to be more accessible to everyone who wants to do it, to everyone who wants to see it. And, you know, I love that we're like kind of this sweet little secret in the middle of the woods in Wisconsin. But like, you know, it makes me crazy when people have never heard of us.
Isn't that wild?
It's crazy. And I think as we expand and grow, and we have been, and it's been so beautiful, I think part of that is how do we get more people in the audience?
Right.
You know, from all different kinds of backgrounds and all different places, and get more people working here. You know, outside of the family is wonderful, but we learn so much more when we have new eyes on stuff and people coming in.
Hey, have you guys thought about this?
God, yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of balance that I've always, as an artistic director, tried to be conscious of, is that you want enough so that people feel secure, trust. The directors can trust that they'll get their jobs done, and that actors feel trusted and they can get farther than they ever thought they could.
Yeah.
That's great. But I've also known that from the most radical learning curves have come from someone saying, hey, as a new person, I'm seeing this. And do you guys think about that? And that's not just invaluable, it's essential.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and it allows us to do new work, and it allows us to do different work, and, you know, I want it all in the worst way, where I'm like, I want to do all of that, and I want us to do, like, King John. You know, like, I want to, like...
Thank God you didn't say Henry VIII.
Henry VIII is hard. But, like, you know, like, some of the, like, classical, older Shakespeare or whatever that are really the hard plays that I think are so rich and nuanced, and how the theater started. Like, to be able to do all of it and expand and grow. And
right on.
Yeah.
That's my last question. Because I could talk to you all afternoon.
I know.
I'm not even aware of how long we've been talking.
Nope, me either.
Okay, I'm not going to be. Sorry, guys. Sorry. But my last question is, so I know how you feel about family, and I know how you feel about children, and I know how you feel about, and I know you know this question, and I'm sure you thought about it, but if you could tell yourself something when you were little.
When I was little.
When you were little. Like, something that you wish you had known, like, for a very long time as you were growing up and as you were becoming yourself. Is there anything you wish you could tell little Laura?
Little Laura, so many things. I want to tell her so many things. Mostly to speak up, and I was so shy.
You were?
I was like clinically shy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I was really scared. I mean, and especially starting out. I mean, that's really sweet that you thought I walked in with like all the confidence in the world, but
You did.
It took me a long time to get confident.
Interesting.
As a human being, and I still struggle. I mean, I think we all struggle with that.
Does.
But I was just always so afraid of doing the wrong thing or saying the wrong thing. Like I think that's where my shyness came from, or like getting in trouble or being embarrassed. And yeah, I just I want her to not be so scared. That's what I want for little Laura.
Well, you learned how to not be so. You picked a pretty interesting profession to not
Well,
be that girl.
that's it, right? Dr. Theater.
Dr.
Yeah.
Theater.
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you.
It's really nice to talk to you.
Thanks.
And Laura Rook.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you up the hill.